right. You came home in what, 63 or 64?
64.
Okay.
Excuse me. And I was assigned to Oak Ridge.
Okay. Well, you'd already been in schools, so it probably wasn't much of a surprise, was it? That they nailed you for an ROTC assignment?
No.
Or did you put in for it, or how does that work?
Well, I
At
asked.
your rank, you could have done just about anything.
Excuse me.
Uh-huh.
This colonel, that was the brigade commander as we went up, and he was rotating to the States as my colonel took over. And he was being assigned to G5 in the Pentagon. And he said that anybody that got an assignment that they weren't happy with, drop by and he'd see what he could do.
Yeah.
And so my assignment from there was the 11th Air Cav. Air Assault, they called it at that time. And at Fort Benning, and my wife said, God, I don't want to go back to Georgia. So I stopped by and I saw this colonel. And he sent me down to personnel. And they told me, well, you can go here and there or whatever. So I said, well, and Oak Ridge was one of them. There was some ROT assignments, I think Wake Forest, A&T, Oak Ridge. When I got here and went over to Wake Forest, they had already filled their position. So it was between A&T and
Oak Ridge.
In Oak Ridge, and I said, well, maybe I'll just go over to Oak Ridge.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
and that's how I got here.
Unbelievable. So you were going to the 11th Air Cav at Benning. That's probably the first Air Cav.
Well, that eventually became
the
first Cav.
Yeah.
In fact, a little later on, the colonel that I had gone to brigade with in Germany had gotten promoted to
brigadier.
Well, 2-star at that time, because he was with the Commander General of the 1st Cav.
Yeah.
And I think he was flying the helicopter himself, and it crashed.
Yeah.
I think he was the only 2-star general that was killed in Vietnam. George W. Casey.
Yeah, heard his stories. Actually, I had a roommate here at Oak Ridge who was with the Air Cav when they were first transitioning into helicopters.
And now the son that George Casey's son is Army Chief of Staff.
Yeah, sure is. And I hear a good man.
Well, he seems to be.
Yeah.
Because I remember him as, going about the age of my boys when they were together in Worms.
Sure, I understand. Yeah, I've had that. I've had that too, where I know a TAC officer, and I know his son, and come back 20 years later, and the son's grown, lost, and everything else. So it's amazing. Okay. Now, you're at Oak Ridge,
right?
And you report in. Were you the PMS right off the top, or were
no? I was just a senior enlisted instructor.
Okay. And who was the PMS at the time?
Adams, Henry Adams.
Yeah, I remember him vaguely. He was a TAC officer, I think, when I was here. Okay. All right, sir. Now, you were here in a very volatile time. There are a lot of key issues over the 26 years, but one of them that I'd like to talk about would be, first of all, the integration of women into the Corps. I mean, that must have been a problem.
Well, it wasn't a great problem, because when they first came, they were not in the military program.
Okay.
And they did. It wasn't a great number of girls. I think it was 13 or something like that. But as time went along, we found that there was a problem by them not being in the program.
Yeah.
Because they could do things on campus that the other cadets couldn't.
Yeah.
So,
So it wasn't really
we got with Betty Hobbs, and
yeah.
we decided that we let them volunteer at first. In about the second year, we just went on and assigned everybody that came into the program. And it worked out good. From there on, we didn't have any problems.
All right, now the JROTC program was open to women at that point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So basically all you did was just slide them right into the... Okay. All right. Now at that point, in the 60s and into the late 60s, you were sending your graduates on to where? I mean, mostly civilian schools, military colleges?
Well, right. Most... There were, you know, you could nominate so many to the military academy if they qualified.
Sure.
It wasn't automatic. And, but those that were interested, you could nominate. And I don't recall in the early beginning too many going. I guess maybe they had enough in the military here. Now, some of them went on into the college program as they went. Eventually, we got a couple that went to the academies.
How about the Citadel, BMI?
A number of them went to the Citadel, and because as time went along, we had a commander here, or head of the school, that was a graduate of the Citadel, and that helped a little bit. For 30 years,
that was Colonel Craft.
Right. There was a number of them that did attend, you know, military schools that way. But it was surprising to me that no more than did actually went into the military. It wasn't a great number.
Well, you were talking about the late 60s, early 70s, yeah.
It was the Vietnam era, and I'm sure they probably felt that it was an automatic assignment to Vietnam.
Yeah. Which it basically was.
Yeah. It was gone, you know, if you were in the military.
Yeah.
But because when I came back from Europe, my wife and myself decided we had 20 years in the service. And the boys were getting up big enough that they needed me home. And so we pretty well decided that if we got a decent assignment, kind of place, I'd put in for retirement. Well, I did after the 2 years at Oak Ridge in '66. And like I say, I was looking for a job, and I tried the post office, and I couldn't take the post office.
Few people can.
Well, I took the exam, and I got the job. But it seems in the beginning you're temporary, which was all right. But I found that with the temporary help, like the work we were doing, the better and the smoother you worked, and which would require you to finish a little earlier. They put you off the clock, which almost had you in a position to kind of mediocre things. And I didn't care for that at all.